Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tejano Traveler. I'm your host Wally, and today we have part two of our trip along El Camino de los Tejas. We are entering Old San Antonio. As you see, all these roads are leading to that central area, San Antonio. So San Antonio was so important. It's where most of the roads combined, converged, and headed into San Antonio and all points east towards Louisiana. And here we have El Paso de las Sabanitas. So it was a creek that you had to cross. Usually you would wait for the water levels to go down, or you would look for a ford along the place. Then we also have El Paso de Dolores in South San Antonio. I know this is Donkey Lady Bridge, but other people know it as El Paso de Dolores or Applewhite Crossing. And here's where we had another one of those crossings. We had to cross the creek to head into San Antonio. And then pretty soon you'd be in the mission area of San Antonio. Most of these were built south of the river. The first one we run into is Misión Espada, and it's a pretty cool mission to go and visit. There's a lot of ruins you can check out. It's part of the National Historic Missions. You can go there and check out the chapel, gift shop, and just walk around and get to enjoy the missions and see what life was like back then. These mission stops were very important because they were surrounded by walls, so it was pretty easy to feel safe in these. And you can still come here and check out what the inside of the chapels used to look like. I love seeing the inside of them. I like that they're still functioning chapels, so if you go there, be respectful. And then we have the Espada Aqueduct. This is something that I didn't know was there, but once I actually saw it, I was amazed at the engineering of it. Look at that, water goes over a creek. And then they also built the Espada Dam close by, which diverted the waters of the San Antonio River on these using this dam that is still in place today. You can see the water being diverted so that it heads over towards the missions. And there you see how it ends up flowing over there, because water was very important, and they used to build acequias or aqueducts to head in those directions. Crossings were also very important along the river. You would need to find rocky areas where you could cross easier, where the water was drier or not as muddy. And if you come here to this part, you can see some of the old crossings. You also get to walk the San Juan Seca Trail, which is where they had the aqueduct that used to flow from the river over to the missions. And it provided the San Juan mission, which we see here, with their water. It was important to have a water resource nearby for the crops that they were growing and for the livestock, and of course for cooking and washing and all those other important things. When you were at the mission, you of course had to go into the chapel and worship and do all your religious duties. And also I like this mission because it has an old mission gate, which just looks kind of awesome. It had to be protected, and it's got an officer's quarter right next to it. And this was Mission San Francisco de Javier de Nájera, a mission that's no longer there, but you see the historic marker that is located there along a golf course. And then pretty soon you reach Misión San Jose, which is the jewel of all these missions here in San Antonio. It's awesome, it's beautiful. That's the rose window where strange happenings happen at night. There's ghost stories about it, but it's always captivated people's imaginations due to how beautiful this window is. And then you go inside, you get to see the chapel, see all the decorations. It's still functioning. People still go there and worship, so as always, be respectful when you're there. Yes, you can take pictures though. And these are the arches that headed over to the rooms where all the priests would sleep and all that kind of stuff. I don't like that they still have it up, but this makes the mission look amazing. And then we had the Misión Concepción. And you can tell the difference because it has two towers instead of one. I'm not like looking at that. Like I said, these missions were important stops along the Camino because they offered shelter and they offered food. They offered a safe place to stay, a safe place from the weather, and gives you a time to just rest up and talk to people and just, get all your energy out. All these are stops along El Camino that you can go and visit. You can learn a little bit more about it. Then you also have the Ituri Edmonds Historic Site, which was also a place where people would stop to rest. So if you go there to San Antonio, go check it out. It's close to the San Fernando Cathedral and Military Plaza. This is where you would be going if you were a traveler coming from Mexico City all the way to Spanish Louisiana. You would definitely stop here at the Military Plaza. You would go and talk to whoever you needed to, get your permits, get your permissions, and the place to go to would be the Spanish Governor's Palace. This place is still there in San Antonio. You can go visit it, get to see what the palace was like. It's not a big, huge building, but it did serve as a place where important decisions were made and everything. So come here, check it out, see how life was like on El Camino. Plus the architecture of the inside is amazing. It's just to see how people back then would live. Also important was the Casa Navarro State Historic Site. This house, owned by Jose Antonio Navarro, was a stop where people would come and rest up, which was always an important thing. He was pretty famous as an advocate for Mexicans, so even after Texas became its own nation, it was still an important stop. El Camino still pretty much existed in connecting San Antonio to areas out east, so definitely come check it out, learn a bit more about that. Also on the route was La Viguita, which is where old San Antonio started along the river. You can see some of the old homes, some of the old construction, some of the old buildings, and get a glimpse of what the actual town center was like before all the huge tall buildings. You get to see the plazas and a lot of the cool stuff. And of course it headed into the San Antonio River. And once you're at the San Antonio River, there is no way you can avoid the Alamo, or San Antonio de Valero. That's what the mission is called. El Alamo is, I guess, a nickname. It's named after a tree. I think elm tree, if I'm correct. But definitely stop and see the Alamo, just because of how important it is. And of course, if you keep traveling north, springs become extremely important. San Pedro Springs, which is now a big park, I think it's Texas's oldest city park. So if you come here, you can definitely see some of the old architecture there and get to see why it was important. Of course, now that you pretty much use it for swimming, but it would have been used for similar purposes back then, for recreation, for water, for drinking. Springs were important because they provided water along the way, and this was one of the main stops as soon as you start leaving San Antonio. And then we have the Acequia del Alamo Dam. This dam stopped the San Antonio River from flooding certain areas, and then we have the Paso de los Tejas, which was also a crossing you had to do. And all this is here in San Antonio. You don't really get to see much of it because it's, San Antonio has grown so much and its old history isn't really around anymore. But places like Comanche Lookout, which is where it was more of a landmark. When you were traveling, you knew you were going the right way. This tower wasn't there back then, but it was built in the 20th century. But still, San Antonio was an important stop when you were on your way to Louisiana. So I hope you've been enjoying these videos. Hope you've been learning some things. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.